Deep in the cold dirt, under the loud streets of Rome, a shivering family whispered their prayers in the pitch black, their faith shining brighter than the heavy darkness pressing against them. This was the terrifying reality of the Roman catacombs. Down here the air was freezing and thick. It smelled heavily of wet earth and old decay. There was no sunlight, only a crushing, unsettling silence that wrapped around everyone who dared to climb down into the deep holes. Every step further into these quiet tunnels felt like walking into a grave while still alive. The dirt walls squeezed in tight, making it hard to take a full breath. These were not just empty holes in the ground. They were a massive hidden world where early believers had to hide just to survive. This dark maze reveals the true strength of a people who knew every shadow held a secret, and every quiet footstep was a matter of life and death. The world above them was a place of pure terror. During this dark time, the Roman rulers demanded that every person bow down to the empire's false gods. If you were an early Christian, you faced a terrible choice. You could not just live quietly and believe what you wanted. The soldiers forced everyone to burn a pinch of sweet-smelling incense to honor the emperor as a god. Refusing to drop that tiny bit of incense into the fire was a crime. It was a choice that meant certain death. Men, women, and even children were dragged away to face wild lions or cruel fires in front of cheering crowds. Because the stakes of this brutal persecution era were so high, these hunted believers had no choice but to vanish. They had to take their songs, their hopes, and their worship completely underground. To stay alive, these brave people used a very smart and surprising trick. They found a strange legal loophole in the strict laws of Rome. The Romans had many harsh rules, but they deeply respected the resting places of the dead. Roman law stated that all burial grounds were completely sacred. No one was allowed to mess with a tomb, not even the most angry and powerful leaders. Even the most ruthless soldiers in the emperor's army were too scared of bad luck to break this holy rule. They would stop right at the edge of a graveyard and refuse to go further. The early church realized this fear was their only shield. By turning the dark tombs of their loved ones into secret meeting spots, they built a safe wall around themselves. The dead were actually protecting the living. Building this shadow world took a huge amount of back-breaking work. Special men known as fossers or diggers took on the hardest job imaginable. They spent their days carving through the soft volcanic rock deep under the earth. They worked in total, blinding darkness, using simple iron tools to chip away at the heavy stone. Every swing of their heavy picks was a quiet act of strong faith. They could not make any loud noises, and they could not leave any mess behind. If the guards above saw big piles of fresh dirt, the secret would be ruined. So the diggers had to carry out thousands of pounds of heavy dirt and rock, one small bucket at a time. They moved like ghosts in the night, hauling away the earth in absolute secret, so the busy city above never suspected a thing. Walking through this new underground world was a true nightmare if you did not know the way. The tunnels twisted and turned in a crazy, endless maze that looked exactly the same in every direction. If a person took just one wrong turn without a trusted guide, they were doomed. They would wander blindly in the pitch black, lost forever, until they died of thirst surrounded by the rotting bodies of the dead. To fight back against the crushing blackness, the believers carried tiny clay lamps filled with cheap oil. The small, flickering orange flames gave off just barely enough light to see the ground in front of their feet. As they walked deeper into the earth to pray, those little fires cast long, scary shadows on the rough dirt walls. Every shadow seemed to move and dance, a constant reminder of the danger hiding in the dark. Finding a safe place for early Christian worship in this massive dark maze required a secret code. Believers could not paint signs on the walls pointing to their gatherings. If guards found clear directions, everyone would die. Instead, they hid their tracks in plain sight. They used secret Christian art painted onto the damp walls to guide their people. To an outsider, these simple drawings looked completely normal. A Roman soldier would just see a quick sketch of a fish, a heavy anchor, or a man watching his sheep. But to the hunted believers, these symbols were clear messages pointing to safety. The fish showed the right path, while the anchor meant a secure spot. This hidden art reveals a true lifeline. Stepping into one of these hidden spaces was a chilling experience. Families huddled tightly together in small carved-out dirt rooms, breathing thick, stale air deep below the city. They were not alone in these cramped spaces. All around them, the decaying bodies of their friends rested in slots cut right into the walls. The line between the living and the dead completely vanished here. Mothers held crying children just inches away from the wrapped bones of people who died for their beliefs. The smell of damp earth mixed with the scent of death, creating a heavy weight on everyone. Yet they sat in this grim reality, finding comfort among the silent dead. When it was time to celebrate the Eucharist, they did not have wooden tables. They used what the cold earth provided. Believers gathered around the flat stone slabs that covered the graves of murdered martyrs. These rough, cold grave covers became their holy altars in the dark. Sharing this sacred meal took on a raw power in the dirt tunnels. They broke bread and drank wine directly over the bones of those just killed by the empire. Every bite was a stark reminder of the ultimate price they might face tomorrow. It was a terrifying way to honor their faith. The dead bodies were not the scariest parts of their meetings during this fierce persecution era. The true terror came from the constant threat of betrayal from within. The Roman secret police knew these gatherings were happening, and they offered massive rewards of gold. The danger of a spy was always present. Anyone could be a deadly spy looking to get rich. A friendly neighbor, a quiet slave, or even a trusted friend might work for the empire. Imagine the deep fear of whispering prayers, never knowing if the person beside you was planning to sell your life. This crushing fear made every meeting a massive risk. That constant fear sometimes turned into a waking nightmare during a raid in the catacombs. Suddenly, the harsh glare of Roman torches would break through the darkness. The terrifying crash of heavy armor and the sharp scraping of drawn swords would echo loudly down the tight dirt hallways. There was nowhere to run. When angry soldiers burst into these underground churches, peaceful prayers turned into pure chaos. Brutal troops showed no mercy to the families trapped in the dead ends of the maze. Those caught were dragged to the surface to face the cruel judgment of the empire. The resting places of the dead instantly became a brutal trap. The Roman leaders thought they had a simple solution. They believed that killing the believers would crush the movement forever. But the deep dirt tombs proved that the exact opposite happened. Every time a new body was carried down into the cold earth, it did not break the spirit of the survivors. It lit a fire inside them. The bones of the victims did not serve as a warning to stop. Instead, those resting places became powerful reminders of why they had to keep going. The cruel acts of the empire only made the underground family tighter and braver. Trying to bury the faith only planted the seeds for it to grow stronger. This secret effort was not just a few hidden caves. The sheer size of this hidden world is hard to believe. Working with simple hand tools, the diggers carved out hundreds of miles of tight tunnels. They built a massive maze that stretched far beyond the city walls, going deeper and deeper into the earth. Over time, this giant network grew to hold millions of bodies. It became an entire hidden city sitting right under the boots of the Roman guards. This was a massive, silent rebellion growing day by day. While the emperor ruled the streets above, a completely different world was expanding out of sight. There is a strange twist to this story. Being buried out of sight is exactly what saved their true history. When the mighty Roman Empire finally collapsed, the secret tunnels were sealed up. Entrances were blocked, the dirt paths filled with thick mud, and the entire underground city was completely forgotten for hundreds of years. That total isolation acted like a giant time capsule, because they were sealed away from the wind, the rain, and the wars happening above ground. The fragile paintings and carved words survived. The deep earth locked away their secrets, keeping the graves safe from anyone who might want to destroy them. The lost city stayed asleep until a stunning moment in the late 1500s. Workers digging a simple ditch in the dirt suddenly broke through the roof of a tunnel. Imagine the pure shock of shining a small lantern into a deep hole and seeing endless rows of human skulls and strange symbols staring right back. It was like cracking open a door to a forgotten universe. That accidental slip of a shovel changed history forever. It gave the modern world hard, physical proof of a struggle that many thought was just an old myth. The discovery proved exactly how those early families lived, hid and worshipped. It offered a raw, untouched look at a community that refused to be wiped out. The symbols carved into the soft rock became a permanent record for all time. It was no longer just a story passed down from parent to child. It was a physical truth, written in stone and bone, that nobody could ever deny again. The empire was gone, but the evidence of the persecuted believers remained perfectly intact. Today, the impact of those ancient dirt halls still hits hard for anyone who walks through them. Modern visitors who step into the tight, cold air are instantly connected to the families who huddled there long ago. Leaving the bright sun to stand in the quiet chill leaves a lasting mark. It forces every person to face the profound human cost of holding on to hope. Today, the human aftermath of those underground days is still felt by millions. Every year, ordinary people travel to Rome just to walk down those steep dirt steps. They come to stand exactly where those hunted families stood. This physical proof changed how the world sees the early believers. It proved they were not just characters in old books, but real mothers and fathers who risked everything for their children. The workers who dug those tunnels left behind a solid bridge for modern people, connecting them directly to the hardest, most desperate days of a tested faith. It all comes down to one quiet image. Deep below the loud streets, a single rough carving of a fish remains scratched into the cold stone. It was carved by a trembling hand to mark the resting place of a loved one. That small, simple mark outlasted the mighty empire that tried to erase it. It stands as a final, unbreakable promise from a forgotten people, echoing through the dirt halls forever.